Watching the Daylight Breakfast Show right here on KBN TV, the finest television. And now I've been joined by Bernard Ziambo, who is the Director, Humanitarian and Emergency Affairs. That's all the way from World Vision. Good morning and welcome to the Daylight Breakfast Show.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here today.
Right. Briefly explain World Vision Zambia's Humanitarian and Emergency Affairs programming.
Thank you so much. World Vision is a humanitarian relief and development organization. On the relief side, as a humanitarian organization, we work with vulnerable people from communities to address issues which affect their livelihood and poverty. So as World Vision, we don't just focus on development programming, but we also support with humanitarian interventions.
All right. Now, Zambia, like any other country in Southern Africa, was hit with drought that affected most parts of the country as well as families. Now, how is World Vision responding to this, and how many districts are the interventions probably taking place?
Indeed. Climate change is impacting many countries. Southern Africa is not exempted. As Zambia, we saw one of the worst drought ever recorded in the past 100 years plus, according to the government. So as World Vision, we've partnered with the government of Zambia to ensure that we bring relief and support to those who have been affected. World Vision works in over 72 districts with our normal programming, but on this response, we are working in the 36 districts to support with various interventions around water and sanitation, food security, livelihood, education, as well as nutrition. So far, our interventions have mainly been on water and sanitation, where we are drilling boreholes to ensure that children have got access to clean water. Women and families can actually access safe and clean water. Apart from that, we're also supporting Ministry of Health and Education to ensure that the facilities which are under their mandate have clean water as well.
All right. And how critical are WASH interventions during this crisis? And what are you doing as World Vision Zambia to provide WASH services to the affected communities?
Yes, being a drought response, one of the key challenge is around water and sanitation. Of course, then there's food, because Zambia is a rain-fed, or we do rain-fed cropping. So in this case, water is critical, and sanitation. You recall that we come in from a situation whereby we had a huge cholera outbreak, which has not gone away, by the way. We see new cases coming up. So water and sanitation is very critical in this response, because you see a scarcity of clean and safe water at community level. You see livestock, for those who are in livestock, the animals don't have access to water. As a result, communities are getting more deprived of income because the status of the animals has been affected, and when they're to sell those, do not fetch a good price.
Okay, and how are you partnering with communities in this response?
Yeah, World Vision is a community-based organization. We work with the communities. We live within the community, so most of our staff in Zambia are actually staying with the communities right where this is happening. So even as much as the communities are affected, so are our staff and as an organization. So we work with communities to ensure that we develop packages which address their needs at community level. We don't bring our ideas into communities, but we work with the existing community structures to ensure that we identify the underlying issues and address those things which are affecting them.
All right. And then in what ways does the programs address the needs of vulnerable children during crisis?
Yeah, World Vision is a child-focused organization. So in whatever we do, children are at the center of our work. So all the interventions we do, we actually focus on ensuring that we meet the needs of the children. They are child-focused, by child, so it extends to the women and the families, of course. But in all our programming, we ensure that we focus on the children. In this sense, when we are targeting the people to assist, we ensure that children are included, and also the interventions are child-friendly. They address the needs of the children who are affected by this drought.
All right. And what other programs, of course, apart from just children? I know there are too many programs that probably, apart from communities, you've talked about water and other programs. But why are such programs very, very important in communities, as well as just ensuring that children have information on such programs?
Yes, sure. So one of the issues we are doing as World Vision, we're trying to address the underlying issues of climate change, of drought. Climate change be one of it. And apart from that, we want to address the vulnerability. So beyond this emergency response, World Vision, we have different interventions to address the underlying issues, to address climate change, and also to ensure that the communities are prepared to respond to disasters. So in this case, what we're doing is that we are working with communities, with government, to ensure that we build resilience, because the more resilient the communities are, the less impacted they're going to be with these recurring disasters. So we invest a lot of our time and resources in resilience building, but at the same time also addressing the developmental needs at community level. So those are some of the activities World Vision is implementing in the 72 districts where we're working beyond this emergency response which we are on at the moment.
Okay. And then what does it take for you to probably identify beneficiaries? I know it also involves working with communities, but what does it take to identify beneficiaries?
Yes. We're not the only ones working in these communities to start with. So we have the government who literally are the owners of this response, and then there are multiple stakeholders who are also responding. So the starting point is that we coordinate at a higher level through the government, who brings all of us together to ensure that we have a coordinated response. And then through the government structures, the disaster management structure, from national all the way to satellite, we have structures in place who are responsible for the coordination of emergency response. That includes the targeting. So from this platform, we're able to identify, first of all, areas where the needs are the highest, and also who in those areas are the most affected. So we work through the satellite committees, the district disaster management committees, who then facilitate a process, a transparent process where we now identify those who are in need, and then assistance is provided.
All right. And how has climate change affected the frequency and severity of emergencies in Zambia, and how is your program adapting?
Yes, climate change has resulted in, first of all, frequent disasters. You recall that in the past 5 years, if we start going backwards, you realize that last year we had flood. Before that, we had a mix of drought and flood. So almost every year we have issues we have to deal with which were never there before. So the frequency of these hazards have increased, but also we are seeing a high intensity of the same hazards. I just mentioned earlier on that the drought we have now is one of the worst we've had. We had flooding in 2023. Again, we're informed by the government that that was one of the worst flooding we've ever recorded in Zambia in the recent past. So because of climate change, we've seen a high frequency of these disasters, but at the same time, with a lot more intensity, making it more difficult for humanitarian actors like ourselves to respond, especially in a situation whereby resources have become more scarce now, making it more difficult to have impactful programming at community level.
All right. right. You're still watching the Daylight Breakfast Show. Right about now, I'm joined by Mr. Ziambo, all the way from World Vision, of course, discussing drought response. Now, what measures are in place to protect the well-being of staff and volunteers, humanitarian operations like the drought response?
Yeah, like I indicated earlier on, that we're a community-based organization. We live within these communities. So first of all, when communities are affected, so our staff and as organization, we coexist with the communities. So when the community is safe, our staff are also safe. But above that, we ensure that staff safety is our top priority. We cannot provide assistance if our staff are not safe. So we've invested resources and time to ensure that, first of all, our responders are safe before anything else, because then we cannot help in a situation whereby our staff are not safe themselves. So we make calculated decisions on the, how and where we respond and how we coexist with the communities.
Okay. In your closing remarks, what would be your message to stakeholders out there, partners, even just individuals on this issue to do with climate change as well as drought response?
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges, like I indicated, is that because of climate change, we are seeing more frequent disasters and with high intensity, increased intensity. But at the same time, resources is one of the biggest challenge we've had, whereby we're not able to meet the needs because resources are more scarce now. So our view is that stakeholders who come on board, could be private companies, private organizations, sponsor an organization of your choice. Of course, we'll be happy if you come to World Vision to respond. With your support, we'll reach more beneficiaries, we'll provide more assistance, we'll ensure that children are in school. What we are seeing now is that children are withdrawn from school, taken home to help with the casual work and interventions to help with raising resources to buy food at household level, which if we don't address those issues, we'll go into a situation whereby we'll be in a crisis, which will take us a lot of time to actually correct. So we have an opportunity now to work together as a country to ensure that we maintain the children in school, that we provide assistance at community level, because people are now selling most of their productive assets just to cope with the situation. So with your assistance, we'll be able to ensure that we meet the immediate needs, at the same time protecting their livelihood assets, productive assets, to ensure that in the long term we don't have a bigger crisis we should be able to address. So we appeal to all key stakeholders to partner with us in this humanitarian situation before it becomes even more complex.
All right. Thank you very much for making an appearance on our Daylight Breakfast Show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here today, and we know that Zambians we're very resilient and supportive of our initiatives. So we know that we're going to overcome this situation.
All right. That was Mr. Bernard Ziambo, who is the Director, Humanitarian and Emergency Affairs, that's at World Vision. We've come to the end of our Daylight Breakfast Show. Thank you to each and every person that took time to just be part of our Daylight Breakfast Show.